Who's visiting Chicago for the first time? Welcome to the city of Chicago. Welcome. Do we have any Chicagoans on the boat today? There we go. We got a few people with nothing to do today. Completely fine. Finally, do we have any architects with us? Even better. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna head all the way to Goose Island. We're gonna head all the way to Chinatown. We're gonna make our way back down this main branch, see Lake Michigan, the Chicago Lock, and what was voted one of the most beautiful skylines in the world. We're just gonna start with a few announcements. Most of the buildings we're gonna see, they're gonna be off into the right side of the boat. You're downstairs facing the river, that's the left side. Want to make your way across the cabin now? You can. Second, important, just no standing on the seats or benches. Quickest way of falling onto this boat and injuring yourselves. This is non-skid paint. Also, it is a very windy day in the city. Keep your caps tethered down. First building is the second tallest in the city, Trump International Hotel and Tower. Completed by architect Adrian Smith in 2009. Standing at 1,362 feet tall, home to 472 condominiums, a 5-star restaurant, and a 5-star hotel. Question, can anyone tell me what is the name of the tallest building in the world? What's the name of it? Burj Khalifa is correct. We've got a good group. That building stands at 2,722 feet tall. You look to the top of Trump Towers, stack another Trump Towers on top of it. It's gonna equal the same height of the Burj Khalifa. Architect Adrian Smith designed both of the buildings. Trump Towers needed over 16,000 truckloads of concrete for it to be constructed, wrapped behind the steel and glass. Mentioned, it was home to about 472 condominiums. Penthouse sold just this March for about $20 million. To a family in the suburbs, it's their second home. Black box structure to our right, AMA Plaza, formerly known as the IBM building. Completed by a German architect in 1971. His name, Mies van der Rohe. Building is completed in his international style of architecture, believing there should be zero ornamentations alongside his buildings. His philosophy, less is more. Only ornamentations for the building is the I-beams. But if you have your cameras out in front of us, the two most photographed buildings here in the city of Chicago. Marina City, or known by their nicknames, the Corn Cobs of the Midwest. Completed by a student of Mies van der Rohe. His name, Bertrand Goldberg. He did not agree with that less is more philosophy, believing since there are no right angles in nature, there should be none in architecture. Not gonna find any right angles in the two buildings here. And when Bertrand Goldberg was gonna construct the two buildings, Mies van der Rohe called him and he asked, "Are you seriously gonna put the two buildings up next to mine?" He replied, "Yes." This was the last they ever spoke to each other. You walk into your apartment here. It is extremely narrow. Widens as you walk throughout the apartment. Shaped sort of like a piece of pie or pizza. Hey, congratulations. Congratulations. I love you like a friend. Now, when the building first opened, it was thought to be a city within a city, having its own ice skating rink, bowling alley, movie theater, even that private marina. You've ever seen the films? The Blues Brothers and Steve McQueen's last film, The Hunter. They were filmed there. That 1979 Pontiac was driven off of the 17th floor into the Chicago River. Speaking of the river, I know a lot of people typically tend to think that it is green due to the fact that we died on St. Patrick's Day. This is not the case. The Chicago River is green because this is a clay-based river and it mixes with the lake water and algae. When dyeing it green on St. Patrick's Day, we use 40 pounds of vegetable dye. Turns the river a bright Kelly green. Color of that dye happens to be orange, lasts for about 3 days. The Reed Murdoch Center is to your right, completed by George Nimmons in 1914. Sheathed in that red brick, at the top you will find some terracotta ornamentation of wheat. You're looking at the building completely. It does look asymmetrical, not always the case. They needed to knock out one of the west side bays here to make room for the expansion of the LaSalle Street Bridge. Building, originally a warehouse, now home to 2 restaurants, condominium office space, Whirlpool, and Encyclopedia Britannica. If we have any engineers aboard, next building is an engineering masterpiece. 300 North LaSalle, completed by Picard and Chilton in 2009. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a LEED certified building. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. The building holds a platinum rating. That is the highest award that the building can achieve, basically like winning an Academy Award for a building. It also has a green roof, which mitigates rainfall, has plants, trees, and vegetations. Chicago has more green buildings than any other city in the United States. But you cannot miss the massive structure after the bridge here. This is our Merchandise Mart, completed back in 1931 by Graham Anderson Post and White. Building is designed in the Art Deco style of architecture. Art Deco buildings typically have the geometrical ornamentations, vertical lines working eyes up, setbacks at the top. This was the largest concrete structure in the world when it opened. Today it's only second to what building? The Pentagon is correct, sir. You're good at useless information. The building sits on 5 city blocks. It is 4.25 million square feet of space. Up into the year 1996, the building had its own zip code, 60654. The building sold to the Kennedy family in 1945 for about $13 million in back taxes. In the year 1998, Kennedy family sold the building for $575 million. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is still true, marry a Kennedy. Stand off into the right side of the boat. They keep this land. This is Wolf Point, and they are developing it at the moment. Having Wolf Point East and West already completed, both residential buildings. Wolf Point East, 650 feet tall. Wolf Point West, 570 feet tall. Salesforce, going to be the last of the 3 buildings, only commercial of the 3, going to be 750 feet tall. Wolf Point, also where we get our name, Chicago. Locals, they were in a tavern and they raised a tinker. What are we going to call this place? Came up with the name Chicago based off the words they heard the natives using. Chicago. They just did not know that translated into wild smelly animals. As we make our turn into the North Branch, just giving you a heads up, going to be the only portion of the tour where we're going to ping pong from the left side to the right side of the boat.
Dễ sợ có cái chân chạy thôi mà nó dựng nó đi vậy. Oh man, nhìn cái chân của nó nè. Wow, cái building này, cái chân của nó không một cái chân thôi mà nó dựng cái building này. Ghê sợ. Cái hôm qua mà nó đứng chơi tôi mà thấy nó nhỏ.
Starting off with the white building in front of us to the left, residence at River Bend, completed by James DeStefano back in 2001. Putting every apartment and townhome on the east side of the building so everyone here can have an unobstructed view down the main branch. And ladies and gentlemen, when the building first opened, parking spots were going for about $60,000. They don't even park their own cars. The ramps are too narrow. They have to drop their keys off to a valet who parks their cars for them. In the red brick building is the Fulton House, completed by Frank D. Abbott back in 1908. An old cold storage warehouse utilized for milk, butter, and eggs. Renovated by Harry Reeves back in the 1980s. He needed to allow the building to de-thaw for about 18 months. He took out over 500 truckloads of horsehair from the building. It was insulated with cork and horsehair. You look alongside the building, you're gonna notice the starfish in the porthole windows. Harry Weiss loved the maritime theme. He loved to sail. Also evident in the cottages that he designed here. These are the Chicago River cottages completed by Harry Weiss back in 1988. Notice the use of the triangles, the porthole windows, how these units sort of resemble a sailboat. It's home to 2 4-story and 2 6-story units that all come with their own private marinas. Get this, up until last year, they were all owned by the original owners. I believe that the one unit sold for about $2.3 million. And just last year, I did have the original owners on my boat said that they were forced to sell because the unit caught on fire. To your right, an upscale fitness facility known as the East Bank Club, completed by Ezra Gordon and Levitt back in 1979. Everything we're seeing here today would not be here back in 1979. Not the trees, not the ivies, not the seawalls, not even the windows alongside the building. Because the Chicago River was so dirty, we turned our backs on it. No one wanted to live alongside the river. You join me to our left, the complete opposite. A beautiful promenade, home to a gorgeous community here in the city of Chicago, known as Kinsey Park. Kinsey Park was completed by George Papa George and Haynes back in 2002. Home to 70 townhomes, all designed to look like European row houses. The most interesting fact about Kinsey Park is that before ground was even broken, all of these townhomes sold for about $1.2 million. They all come with their own rooftop terrace, a balcony, a patio, and the beautiful promenade here that we're seeing. Kinsey Park, it's a gated community, but during the day, it's open to the public. You just have to let the gatekeeper know that you're going to be on the property. And I mentioned, before they were completed, they all sold for about $1.2 million. Some today are reselling for about $4 to $8 million. We're going to clear the Grand Bridge and stay off into the right side of the boat for the rest of the North Branch. Finding another red brick building here, ladies and gentlemen. This one is known as the Riverbank Loft. Or anything else you may want to do while you're here in the city during your visit. Because we will have a pretty extended break when I get a chance to actually walk around and check in and see if you have any questions that may need any answering. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, what I want to do here is start with history in the year 1673, when we have our first European explorers, Father Marquette, Louis Joliet, finding the Illinois River with the help of some friendly local natives. They helped use a shortcut. In the year 1779, we have our first non-Native American citizen, Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable. Haitian man came to the city looking to establish a fur trading business. Fur trading base was not too far from where we left the dock, on the side of the new Apple store. In the year 1837, Chicago is finally incorporated as a city. Got a population of about 4 fine arts at the time. Today, our Museum of Science and Industry and the fair brought about 28 million people to the city. U.S. population at that point, 60 million. Why did we get so many visitors? We introduced a lot of new things to the world in 1893. We introduced the zipper, Cracker Jacks, Nikola Tesla's alternating current, the brownie, Pabst Blue Ribbon. What was also first introduced was the world's first Ferris wheel, completed by a bridge designer. Ladies and gentlemen, to give you an idea as to how narrow the base of the building is, it's about 30 feet wide. That is as wide as the boat that we're on here today. And the building does have something pretty unique on the top. We can't see it. Something known as a mass damper system. Essentially 4 tanks containing about 160,000 gallons of water. It's held with the swing of that building when it wants to be blown by the wind. You see, the building is built like a tuning fork. So when it wants to be blown east by the wind, 160,000 gallons of water goes to the west end of the building. All computer automated. To your right, 100 North Riverside. Building is home to the Boeing headquarters, but is home to a Boeing store for all of your Boeing needs. 36-story building built with a 13-story lower hat. And I want to draw your attention to the 5 vertical beams, which keep this side structurally supported. Once we clear the bridge, it's going to be one of the few times during this tour when I will ask for you to turn around, because you're going to notice south and west side corners that you're not being supported by any means. You're being supported by these white X-braces at the top. They're known as trusses. Now turning around, looking to the top of the building, you can find those X-braces and those trusses to give you an idea as how they are essentially working. Think about the way I'm holding this cup of tea in my hand, basically holding it or suspending it in midair. Essentially, this is how those trusses are working, holding the south and west side corners in midair. 2 North Riverside Plazas to our right, completed by Halliburton Route, 1927. One of the first buildings erected over the rail system, used as a concert venue, and up until 1971, home to the Daily News printing press. Now home to one of our water taxi stops. The next couple buildings we're going to talk about, all completed by the same architect. At 1,454 feet tall, 442 meters, 110 stories. Completed in what is known as bundled tubular construction. You see the building, ladies and gentlemen, is essentially 9 separate boxes bundled together at varying heights to help with the wind swaying of the building. You see, on a very windy day, the building can sway about 18 inches in each direction. Workers in those top floors say they go into the bathroom, see water in the toilets sloshing around. That would give me a heart attack, but it's also an automatic bidet. Pink building after the bridge at 311 South Wacker, completed by Cole, Patterson & Fox in 1990. Tallest building in the world that does not officially have a name. Goes by street address 311 South Wacker. South Wacker to your right has the mural of the Chicago women of our streets. Red block in the center, the biggest "You Are Here" sign. Take your cameras out or keep your cameras out. Gonna get another great photo opportunity of the Sears Tower coming into view. You can see poking out of the 103rd floor the 5 glass boxes, an observation deck known as the Sky Deck. On a crystal clear day, you can walk out to one of the glass boxes, see 4 states from up there: Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, even Illinois. You can look down 1,152 feet and see your deck. Yes, I'm afraid of heights. I've not been up there. Now, yes, it is true. About 5 years ago, family of 4 walked out to one of the glass boxes. Glass began to crack beneath their feet. When we asked the engineers, why did this happen? They replied, that is supposed to happen. They said that that glass was supposed to crack to let them know that it is time to be replaced. True story. You're in the city of Chicago in late 2019, glass in the sky that cracked once again. In the building, it originally opened for principal tenant Sears and Roebuck in 1974, lost the naming rights in the mid-2000s. British insurance company known as Willis then obtained those naming rights. Ironically, they're the same insurance company that insured the Titanic. It's only interesting for me this week because I watched that movie for the first time Monday. They both could have fit on that door. But if you want to know, I'm serious, they both could have fit. And if you want to know how the Sears Tower stands against the tallest buildings in the United States, third behind Freedom and Central Park Tower located within New York City, within the world, sitting at about 25. After clearing the bridge, looking to our right, notice this next building's corners. Architecturally, these are known as serrated corners, allowing for the building to have 16 corner offices per floor. Chicago Mercantile Exchange, completed by Fujikawa and Johnson in 1986. When the building first opened, home to two separate towers. It was not until they merged with the Chicago Board of Trade that they placed a trading floor in the center. And we're gonna find the bridge house at the end here. Look at how close they built the building to the bridge house. Ladies and gentlemen, that is some fine engineering, you ask me.
Wow.
You're gonna find the Civic Opera building, completed by Graham Anderson Ropes and White in the 1930s, has a French Renaissance style of architecture outside and a very beautiful interior Art Deco lobby. Home to our Lyric Opera Company here in the city. Open back up September 17th with Fiddler on the Roof. Seats about 3,700 people, and those faces, tragedy and comedy. And just directing your attention in front of the boat to the left, to something you may have noticed as we've been cruising alongside the river, to one of the bridge houses. Now, our bridge houses or bridge tenders had a pretty important job 24/7, 365, basically acting as our first firefighters, watching out for any brawls, fires, and anyone trying to commit suicide. They're not in use as much today, so hear me out, if renovated, can make for a pretty unique Airbnb. You look to your right, one of the newest buildings in the city of Chicago, Bank of America building, designed by the same architecture firm who completed 150 North Riverside. Notice, they both have the pretty narrow basis. This one also has the 3 tridents, 40 stories, and it also features what is known as a pocket park and 2 brand new restaurants at its base. First floor, Bar Mar, second floor, Bazaar Meat. We're going to clear the bridge. To our right, find a pretty important piece of history.
Wow.
Not the Starbucks. The Red Brick Building. It's the Great Lakes Building, completed by Halliburton Rose in the year 1912.
Wow.
One of 2 buildings on the tour, not as important as the piece of land it's on. Because on the other side of this Great Lakes Building in the year 1860, there is a temporary structure known as the Wigwam. And in that wigwam in 1860, we held the Republican National Convention. And at the time, an unknown candidate was nominated for president. Who was nominated for president in 1860? Abraham Lincoln is correct, miss, winning the nomination by 2 votes because the state of Ohio changed their voting policies at the very last second. Terminus of the Riverwalk is to your right, depending on where you are, it's the start and finish of the Riverwalk. In the green glass building, 333 West Wacker Drive was voted the most beautiful building alongside the river. Notice how it bends with the natural bend of the river. It's known as contextualism, when the building adapts to the natural side of topography that it is on. You've ever seen the film Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Yeah.
And you remember the scene when Ferris Bueller's dad looks down to the parade from his office building, knowing it from 333 West Wacker Drive here. Parade scene was shot a few blocks south of it on State Street, that great street. And to be completely honest, I'm only halfway through that movie right now. He just crashed the car, got caught up in House of Dragons. Now, at eye level here, ladies and gentlemen, if you've seen, once again, The Dark Knight, and you remember those scenes underground in the Tumbler, they are on Lower Wacker Drive. Who's driven on Wacker Drive? Who's gotten lost on Wacker Drive? It's a rite of passage, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Now you're gonna notice now where you're seeing the bus stop, that's Upper Wacker Drive. Below it, Lower Wacker Drive. Below that, Lower Wacker Drive. For all of those north, south, east, west Wacker Drive, GPS, Uber, Lyft, they can't tell which level you're on. Catch a cab. Camera projection booth here. If you got nothing to do tonight, make your way to this area around 7:30. We are now projecting images, videos, maybe even a few concerts into the Merchandise Mart completely free on a nightly basis. In the Bays building, 225 West Wacker Drive. Look to its top. Notice the bridge connecting the east and west side, paying homage to our 37 bascule trunnion bridges here in the city of Chicago. Bascule basically translates into seesaw in French. You see our bridges, very well balanced. They weigh about 1,000 ton, only take 108 horsepower to open. And they do open every Wednesday and Saturday mornings in May and October, directly in the center to let the sailboats through. Chicago, more opening bridges than any other city in the United States. Pittsburgh may have more bridges than us, they don't all open. Quality over quantity. One city in the world does have more opening bridges than the city of Chicago. Can you name it? Not Paris, but it's in Europe. Amsterdam is correct, sir. 101 opening bridges in Amsterdam. We're gonna find the theater section of the Riverwalk at eye level here. On a beautiful day, you're gonna see it filled with people just watching the boats and the days go by. They'll even pull a barge up here at night and have a free concert. You're gonna find two more buildings after the bridge. First, the LaSalle Wacker building, completed by Halliburton, Route 1927. It's one of the first buildings to utilize that setback. When it was completed, air conditioning was not so common. It helped to allow air to circulate throughout the building. This glass structure east of it, let's talk about it. 111 West Wacker Drive. Started by Ting and Associates, supposed to be 90 stories, did not happen due to the recession. Set structurally unfinished alongside the river for about 5 years. Got finished in 2012 by a different architecture firm, Related Midwest. Chicago, you still with me? All right. Thank you, little lady. 15 minutes left. Let's finish strong. One of my personal favorites to our right, 77 West Wacker, completed by Spanish architect Ricardo Field. Look to its top. Set to pay homage to Gianno's Campanale on top of the Florence Cathedral. In the structure that's east of it, 55 West Wacker Drive, I call it the hashtag building. Notice the next building has these silver bars inserted into its windows. These are known as mullions, helping to reflect sunlight in the building. 35 West Wacker Drive, completed by Kevin Roche and John Dinkeloo in 1992. Building is home to the Leo Burnett Advertising Agency. They've come up with Snap, Crackle, Pop, Ronald McDonald, Tony the Tiger, Pillsbury Doughboy, and my favorite, the Meow Mix jingle. You look directly in front of the boat here, find the building with the green base and the gold cap. It's the Carbon and Carbide building, home to the Pendry Hotel. Completed by the Burnham Brothers back in 1928, set to resemble a champagne bottle. They got
This one's different, okay.
Directly to your right, a giant black fidget spinner. Lake Point Tower condominiums, completed by George Shipwright and John Hyrick in 1968. It's the building, it's where everyone thought Oprah Winfrey lived in. Oprah Winfrey did not live here. Started the rumor herself. Lived in Water Tower, placed about a block south of the John Hancock Center. Other famous people have lived here. Joakim Noah, Derrick Rose, Kurt Russell, Sammy Sosa, and other cheaters. Looking to its top, rounded structure. It's a 5-star French restaurant known as a Satie. It does not rotate. The restaurant is now up for sale. $70 million. One potential buyer. What does he want to turn it into? An Arby's. I'm joking. I'm joking. A penthouse, miss. Penthouse. In front of us, we've got the Lakeshore Drive Bridge. First person to ever cross it, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, giving the commencement speech here. But ladies and gentlemen, I've got something pretty unique I want to share. There was a man found living underneath this bridge. A homeless man named Richard Dorsey built himself a 9x9 apartment made out of wood underneath the bridge. When we found him with 3 appliances, microwave oven, 19-inch TV, and a Game Boy. When the bridge would open like this in the center, ding, 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 had all of his appliances tethered down, stole all of his electricity from the bridge houses. Question is, how did he get caught? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very true story. I am not making it up. You can even Google it. It was around the Super Bowl, and he would decide to throw himself a Super Bowl party. He'd invited a few of his friends, placed a few bets with them, lost the bets, he couldn't pay up. They called the cops on him. True story, lived there for about 3 years. Name was Richard Dorsey. 2 buildings to your right, Riverviews 1 and 2, completed by James DeStefano in 2006. 1 bedroom here will start you out at about $3 million. Townhome, $5 to $9 million. Penthouse, 2 floors, comes with its own squash court, basketball court, other wonderful amenities, listed close to about $16 million. Safe to say the population of tour guides in the buildings is very low. Looking to its top, who are they paying homage to here, ladies and gentlemen? Statue of Liberty is correct, though. You're still with me. Look to your right, find the 2 white antennas connected to that black structure. That's the former John Hancock Center. And yes, I said former. Building lost its naming rights just last year. Now goes by street address 875 North Michigan. Completed in 1969 by Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. It is home to a few observation decks, the 360 and the tilt. When you're in the tilt, you're in the glass box tilted out to a 30-degree angle. I recommend to my guests, you're gonna visit the building, visit the Signature Lounge. You happen to be a lady, visit the restroom. Why? Best view down Michigan Avenue. How do I know this? I Googled it. Sheraton Hotels to your right, completed by Solomon, Corwell, and Benz in 1992. This is where all of the presidents stay when visiting the city of Chicago. It's most easily blocked off from public access. It is also home to a ballroom, about 40,000 square feet. That is the size of a football field. Can host a party of about 4,000 people here. It's also where we dyed the river green on St. Patrick's Day using that 40 pounds of vessel dye. You look in front of their inspiration during a New Year's Eve party built during the Prohibition. Top of the building is clad in 24 karat gold. The Jewelers building is to our right, built during the gangster area in the city of Chicago. Jewelers had to drive their cars into the building on top of an elevator just so they wouldn't get mugged. Temple-like structure at the top, that's known as a Belvedere. In that Belvedere in the mid-20s and the early 30s, held a speakeasy known as the Stratosphere Lounge. Rumor has it an infamous mobster used to visit that lounge, his name Al Capone. And in front of us to the right of the Lennon House, this skinny white skyscraper's Mather Tower was the tallest building in the world for 2 weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, just about where we started your tour, at the base of the London Guarantee and Accidents building. It's the second building not as important as the piece of land it's on, because if you walk around its base, you're gonna find brass inserts in the pavement. letting you know it's where our first military base was located, Fort Dearborn. Why did we choose this specific piece of land? In front of us, you're gonna find the DuSable Bridge. 10 years ago, it was known as the Michigan Avenue Bridge. It is once where the lake met the river. It's pretty convenient for us to have our first military base located here. Got the name changed about 10 years ago in honor of our first non-Native American citizen, Jean-Baptiste Point DuSable. Go Bears. Sounds like we've got some good swimmers. Completed by Nimitz and Fellow in 1909, building is a great example of adaptive reuse. Adaptive reuse is when you take a building that had a previous use and you give it another use. This used to be a printing warehouse. It is now home to what are known as soft lofts. Soft lofts have an open floor plan. You will have an enclosed bathroom, some exposed brickwork, ductwork, drywall, vents, things like that. And if you happen to have a loft there on the first 2 floors, you may have up to 4 fireplaces. But question, we smelling chocolate? It's the Blommer Chocolate Facility a few blocks behind us. That is free smells, 0 calories. Looking in front of us here, we're gonna find Erie, and after clearing this building, Kingsbury on the Park, completed by Lucien Lagrange in 2002, designed in the European industrial style of architecture, allowing for them to have exposed steel, which makes them look structurally unfinished. It also allows for the penthouse to have a beautiful rooftop terrace. But these are the only 2 buildings like this alongside the river, style of architecture, then pick up in the city. In the park to our right, Montgomery Park used to be a 1-acre park, but due to so many people wanting to live alongside the river, it's been expanded to a 4-acre park. They also added a dog park to it. Ladies and gentlemen, you are new to a city and you want to meet people, get a dog. Go to a dog park at about 7 in the morning, you're gonna meet a bunch of people. Don't miss the building out there in the distance with the blue glass and the concrete corners. This is known as the Montgomery, former office building for Montgomery Ward. Anyone on the boat today remember Montgomery Ward? For all of the children on the boats today who do not remember Montgomery Ward, he was a major catalog baron in the 19th century. Essentially, he was Amazon before Amazon. He just got everything that you wanted out of these thick catalog books. We're deeply indebted to Mr. Ward because he saved Chicago's front yard. Today, it is Grant Park. He is the reason why we have over 26 miles of uninterrupted lakefront access.
Wow.
Back to the building. It was completed in 1971 by architect Minoru Yamasaki, same architect who designed the World Trade Centers in New York City. Interesting fact about those buildings, they had 0 corner offices. Neither does the Montgomery. It's because when Montgomery Ward was alive, he believed that none of his workers should think that one is better than the next. So to honor him, they built that building, the Montgomery, with 0 corner offices. 4 concrete corners that we saw are all of the foundations for the building. White building with the black balconies. This is One River Place, completed by William McCauley in 1930. Building is another great example of that Art Deco style of architecture. Also another great example of adaptive reuse. A key indicator that lets you know a building's a great example of adaptive reuse, the balconies. You can tell that these balconies were not originally alongside the building. This was the original office building for Montgomery Ward, has been converted into apartments. Just beyond the bridge, we're gonna find another massive building. This one is known as the Domain, completed by Smith, Garden and Martin back in 1908. This was the original warehouse for Montgomery Ward. It's about 1.25 million square feet of space, heavily influenced by the prairie style of architecture, which typically uses the horizontal lines. Building was renovated by Papa George and Haynes. When he went to renovate the building, he found over 250 pairs of roller skates in the basement. Why? Well, it's because Montgomery Ward wanted his workers filling out orders quickly and efficiently. So he had them roller skating up and down the corridors, filling out orders. Sounds fun for about 2 weeks. 3rd week, I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice. Directly in front of the boat, probably the only man-made island here in the city of Chicago, formerly known as Ogden Island, it is now known as Goose Island. Gets his name Ogden in honor of our first mayor, William B. Ogden. He drugs his island to excavate clay for his brick company that he owned. It did not get the famous name Goose Island till Irish immigrants were seen here raising geese. And just pointing out the area to your left, because if you come back to Chicago in a few years, you will not recognize this city. We're gonna add the Bally's Casino here. Once we make our way out to see Chicago's skyline, you're gonna notice we've got a few cranes up, about 30 skyscrapers under construction right now. By the year 2030, we plan to be able to swim in the Chicago River again. Ladies and gentlemen, we made huge strides with the river. It used to be really, 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 really dirty. Today, it's just really dirty. To your right, the Chicago Tribune's Freedom Center. This is where they print their paper. Building's home to 10 Gotts Metroliner presses. Each press so massive, it has to have its own foundation. Each press prints about 70,000 papers per hour. And we're in the age of technology. So to consolidate for those sales, they also print their competitors, sometimes in the Midwest version of the Wall Street Journal. And you're gonna notice, looking in front of us here, that green statue on top of the building, that is Progress Lighting the World by J.C. Mulligan. Made our turn, beginning to head south. Gonna see a ton of buildings that we've already seen and talked about. Now would be a good time for you to head downstairs, take a break, visit the restroom. Just gonna go over Chicago's history till we make our way back to the main branch. Don't worry, you head downstairs, you're gonna still hear my voice. Can hear me everywhere alongside the boat today, even in the bathrooms. That's creepy. Now we're just gonna go over Chicago's history till we make our way back to the main branch.